is 6:30.
Hotel Vice.
The Bryce.
We do have a quorum. Roger Marmol is absent. I haven't heard from him, so
Me neither.
I haven't
Go
heard
ahead.
Maybe the cat's gone.
get started.
No.
Okay. First, as soon as I get situated here. We'll review the regular business meeting for tonight. Got an invocation and the pledge, minutes approval, some reports from Planning Commission, the DDA, and Public Works. Public hearing, we just have first readings on 2 items. One is the extended stay hotels. We do have that on the work session agenda, so we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I did meet with the attorney, Brandon Hanselek, last Friday, so we can talk about that in the work session. Got a first reading for the Sam's real estate for adding a fuel center. The second readings we have is a conditional use permit for Mount Zion. Any questions? Anything to go over before the meeting? No, here comes Roger.
Hey, Roger. That's just a sign.
Yeah,
So
Well, it is, just to be clear, they are applying for a CUP, so just like any other church that's been operating in a residential district without a CUP, they're non-conforming. So this will bring them into conformance, which in turn allows them to have the sign. So the action is to make them a valid CUP, but their goal for now is just the sign. So just make sure that the request is clear.
okay. Then we have a second reading on the Swope and Thomas property and Jimmy Johnson's property for, it's not really for the rezoning is not necessarily for the car wash on the Chevron station property. It is for the remainder property that will be left. So any questions there here in the work session?
It's zoned for a car wash anyway, right?
It is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically, you know, the action through the subdivision of the property and then the demoing of partial of the site created a non-conformity, and that's what the council's here to address on that property. All the conditions are tied to that property.
Right.
We'll kind of run through that. when we get
Okay.
there.
Okay, and then we have the second reading for the Patrick Malloy Companies and Summit Chase Country Club. Any questions?
What is that tonight?
LOL.
Any questions before we get into the meeting?
No.
Are we gonna, do we need to go over the conditions that the proposed
conditions.
conditions we were sent today by Chuck?
If you would like.
I sent out an email way too late this afternoon that condition 3, as I saw it, I just wanted to change some of the wording, and that is as part of, I'll wait for everybody.
Wait, hold on.
And I was running off the email, not off the work
Oh,
packet,
okay.
so Lord only knows if they match up. But it was the deal about the stormwater pond that's on the Summit Chase property, and just would like the wording changed for, as part of the site stormwater mitigation plan, the developer at the earliest opportunity, which as part of the stormwater mitigation plan and at the earliest opportunity are the only changes, and then goes into shall be responsible for improving the drainage structure and freeboard storage capacity of the small off-site pond lane just north of the property. So it's really just adding a few words to make my neighbors feel a little more comfortable.
What would we define as the earliest opportunity?
That would be up for you and the engineer to figure out,
All right,
because
I'm
it's,
okay with
the big issue that has come up is, whenever anything's been built upstream, there's been siltation into Johnson Lake. So if that, overflow detention pond is, upgraded on the front end, then hopefully it will catch the silt rather than it going down into the lake.
Gotcha.
That's all.
So you're making an addition to Chuck's number 16? Is that, if you're
Wow.
looking at
He
the actual
said number
ordinance?
3.
Well,
I
it
think
was
he
number
said.
3 on the email that went out.
It's 16 on.
So
Okay.
16,
Oh,
is that right?
okay.
So then-
Updated ordinance.
3 equals 16.
Mine printed out in yellow, so
Yeah, so did
having an
mine.
additional, okay, so it's not just my printer.
So it's just the addition of,
Could you
as part of the
say
site
that
storm,
again?
as part of the site stormwater mitigation plan, and then the word developer, because that's already there. And then addition of the words at the earliest opportunity.
How do you go from 4 inches to 6 inches on caliper?
Hey, I made that recommendation based on the fact that your 4-inch established trees are probably gonna be mostly scrub pines.
Okay.
Come back in with new stuff, that are gonna be more evergreenish, larger bases, will provide more screen. You're not really gonna get into any benefit till at least 6 inches, sometimes even a 10-inch Virginia pine's not gonna do you any good. So I wanna be able to look at what was there, make sure that we kept the right trees and we don't get stuck trying to save a little scrub tree. You know, that's maybe a, some kind of, tree that, king cobra or something like that, just so we can look at it a little closer. So that
Okay.
was my suggestion.
I wanted clarification on the privacy fence. The condition that Chuck added requires the privacy fence from lots, what was it,
121 to
121 to
144.
144. And my understanding, based on what I've heard the developer say before, is that this is a community with a privacy fence around the whole community. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that's what I understood. I just wanted to be sure that that was,
I think
eventually, I mean, it will have,
Right.
that fence
that's
too,
that fence is what will be constructed initially,
Initially.
abutting those existing residences, but eventually the whole development will
part
have a.
part of their building plan or their product is to, basically, from what I understand, is to fence every yard.
Right.
To provide that security. Now, what I believe was proposed was not only would there be that fence would be put up first, that there's 3 different options for fencing types, so that would be uniform.
Uniform,
That
right.
option would be removed along that longest run, and then as they built them, they'll connect them. But that'll give some time for the buffers to grow
Right,
and the
okay.
fence to be established on that side. So
Okay,
there'll
I
be
just
some extra time.
wanted to be clear on that.
Okay, anything else anyone wants to discuss? Okey-doke.
And just an additional thing and a reminder, the LUP is a separate and first
Right.
vote.
And because there were some suggested conditions that the developer had emailed in, and then a couple that were discussed after our technical meeting last week on the stormwater stuff, whoever's gonna make a motion, let's just try to be very clear about what conditions we're doing and what you're referencing when you're doing the motion. I do have a copy of the latest draft of the ordinance. That was the one that Chuck had sent us. With the proposed changing of the conditions. So just whoever's making the motion, let's just be real clear about what you're motioning.
What you're motioning, huh?
And even if you wanna go through and read them all, so that, then there's no question. Otherwise, there's gonna be confusion later on, we don't want that. Then we have, under new business, the budget. Any questions for Butch?
I'm passing out a little change in my overview. The only differences between the first reading and this reading, actually, reduced the budget. We had time to make two main changes. We did some work on the sanitation, proposed sanitation increase, and we were able through two methods to, if you remember, the subsidy was going to be about $760-something thousand. We're able now to maintain that at $730,000 through negotiating with the vendor. Plus, we have absorbed two commercial rate increases in the last 3 years. We have not touched our fees. Gay and her staff went over the charges, the current fee rate, and with a 2.5% across the board commercial increase to help cover those two increases that we've absorbed the last 2 years. Those two steps get us down to that $730,000 subsidy. We still are very competitive with the market as a whole, but those are the two. The other change is we negotiated on the Parks and Rec master plan update, so we could reduce that, and the result is a budget that's $12,643,672. The spending is now up by 2.9%, or $344,000. So that's what those are the changes between the last meeting and this one. So that's what we'll be proposing. And the second sheet just shows you where we were able to come down to the $730,000 subsidy, where we've been the last 2 years.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget?
Oh, the findings from these two. What has been done since that?
Let's see.
From the auditing?
They're doing their own audit. The DDA is conducting their own audit now.
That's just starting this year, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, they themselves are auditing themselves, or they're getting?
They've
a third
always
party?
been more of a component unit of the
Uh-huh.
city, but now they're considered independent, and they'll be doing their own audit.
They'll
Don-
hire a CPA to do the audit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
They can't
okay.
audit themselves.
they may have already negotiated that.
Okay, and then we have approval, hopefully, of the city manager contract. I think Tony sent a copy to everybody. It's what we had previously discussed, if anybody had any questions on that. Dave's got some
We have a lot
smart,
of questions.
smart alecky comments coming, I can tell.
Should have asked those in the evaluation. Raked me over the
Somebody was
coals
holding a
there.
gun to my head. I had.
Okay, now, any correspondence?
Not on my end.
I do,
Um,
just reporting in.
I did put a letter in everybody's box from, a person supporting the Summit Chase thing. I'd gotten that on Friday, and it was all in one envelope, so I distributed it to everybody. That was all the first ones. Okay,
The mayor had picked up what was a congratulatory email coming off of a case in Cobb County, and it's the Development Authority of Cobb County versus the state of Georgia. There was an appeal of a decision regarding bond funding and definitions, and there is nothing about that. Having talked with Blake Sharpton, there is nothing about that changes our direction or gives us greater latitude. The report is that there is plain language that lawyers rely on inside those statutes that tells us what we can do, and your Supreme Court is just reading the language and interpreting it. The the lower court judge in this case made it much more restrictive than it was intended to be. And they consistently reviewed it and just applied a plain language. So it's a good decision if you like to be able to read the law and do what it says. That's about the best I can do for.
It really seemed kind of strange the way the language, they're really parsing out what essential means, and it's like, what is is?
But that's what they did.
Yeah.
That is exactly what what courts are supposed to be doing. So, and a good job in this case.
Okay. All right, so now we'll go into our discussion items on the work session. And first up is the code enforcement procedures and issues. And what we had discussed, I think at the last meeting, was not to discuss this here in this work session because it's gonna be a bigger conversation. So what I wanted to do is see if we can set up a work session to where we can have council, planning, our code enforcement officers, and Judge Gallant all present to be able to discuss potential changes to ordinances to allow, whatever some issues are, hear it directly from our code enforcement officers, what it is that they're, up against, allowing council to see, understand a little bit more fully what kind of issues they're dealing with, and then us to be able to convey to the code enforcement and our judge what our priorities are as a council and as the city's representative. So I did, public safety night, I did talk to the code enforcement officers and Judge Gallant. And it sounded like Tuesdays or Wednesdays would be good. Wednesdays, of course, they have court, but they're all here usually on those days, and they don't mind doing them on a Wednesday. So we could maybe do a start time around 6 or 6:30, so that they'll be finished up with the court session hopefully, and just be able to fall right into here, and we can spend a little bit of time going through that. So I just wanted to see if y'all did have your calendars, if we could go ahead and set up a date. I know one of the officers is not gonna be here on the 19th. I don't know if you wanna look to June 26th. July 3rd is right before the 4th, probably not a good day. Maybe July 10th? Or July 17th? Anyone?
3rd and 10th are fine for me.
The third, the day before the 4th?
You guys want?
I don't have anything on Wednesday, so pick one you like.
Okay. Well, y'all wanna do July 3rd?
Okay.
Are we having a court that week? There won't be a court that week.
So they
Then
won't
Then
be
how about-
here.
How about the 10th?
Okay.
10th is fine.
And then that'll give Jason and everybody time to gather up what
And you
needs to be
said,
talked about.
what, 6 or 6:30?
What do y'all think?
They'll be done by 6. Let's do 6 so they don't have
6.
to hang around.
Okay. Very good. All right, Butch, millage rate, meeting dates?
Because under the state law, maintaining the millage rate is considered a rate increase. We need to have 3 public hearings, public meetings. And we had recommended June 22 on June the 27th.
You said June
July?
22nd?
June 27th.
June
Okay.
27th.
June 27th.
What time are these meetings?
One was gonna be, what was it, Melissa, 1 o'clock?
You got, here you got 11:30 and 6.
11:30 and 6, so.
Two meetings on the 27th?
Yes, 2
Yeah.
meetings on
You have to do
Sunday.
one in the morning and one at night.
And we just need a quorum at each one, so if there are a couple of conflicts, as long as we get 4 there for each
It's
one.
basically, you come in, nobody shows up, or one or two people show up, and
Right. So 11:30 and 6.
6.
And then the third meeting?
Then the third meeting will be the regular, first
July
regular
10th.
council meeting in July,
Okay.
which will be what, the 8th?
July
Yes.
8th.
And that will be the adoption date.
6 p.m.
Give me just a second, I'll be much better if I get it on my calendar right this minute. Okay. Billboard agreement. Do we have,
So where we're at with that, we've met with the attorneys for Clear Channel. They are essentially in agreement with our agreement to trade out the signs, as we've discussed on several occasions. The only remaining issue is they want the converted signs to become legally conforming signs. And while that's okay with us, we have to do that in a manner that doesn't create a class of other signs that would then allow other people to not, or to put in the signs not following the ordinance and the changes. So what they had submitted to us was not really practicable. And so Jason and I are working together on trying to specifically delineate signs based on their distances from different boundaries as far as certain roads and certain property lines and that. And we're going to use those to be very specific in our language to only allow those signs which we're approving to be changed to then be conforming signs. And so Jason and I are working on that.
okay. Anybody have any questions? All right, and then we have the extended stay hotel ordinance. We've got the first read for tonight, and everybody should have the updated copy with the last discussion items that were in here adjusted. Did you know how that was?
Just again, I sent out everyone this morning a copy with, those were the changes from our last meeting that you all indicated, which were both concerns you had as well as things Mr. Hanslick had brought to the table as well. But in particular, there is the largest, I guess, issue that was changed was we removed the language that required 100 square feet per person requirements. There is still a requirement of 300 square foot minimums for the room. There is still a requirement that you can have no more people sleeping in the bed than there are, or sleeping in the room than there are spaces on the bed. So those remain intact. But there had been a previous requirement that added 100 square feet per person. So that was one of the things that was brought to the table that we tentatively removed. Again, this is all for your consideration and decision. Also, Jason, I believe, had raised an issue regarding the vehicle registration and it being cumbersome on the hotels for nightly visitors to have to register. So what we did was we changed it in there for anyone staying longer than 3 nights. And that affects not just extended stays, but all hotels, motels, and extended stays. But
Longer
it was
than 3 nights?
3 nights.
I thought it said 48
Or
hours.
48 hours, I'm sorry. It was
Yeah.
48, not 72.
In
Longer than
excess
48
is
hours.
48.
Would then have to register the vehicle. And then the other issue that had come up that we did not change was there had been some discussion that the ordinance required daily cleaning. And what the ordinance actually requires is that they collect for daily cleaning to be done, but that the rooms actually only have to be cleaned every 48 hours. And we left that intact as a provision. Again, these are for you all to decide how you want to handle those. But those were what came out of our meetings and included in an updated version of the ordinance for you all.
I guess the only question I had, and maybe this is kind of stupid, but when we say no more people than the beds allow, so are we assuming like a king bed allows just 2 people, or?
Not a stupid question, it was actually brought up.
You
Not
know, I
stupid at
mean,
all.
That was actually a discussion we had, and I think,
Oh, okay.
that's something that we can certainly, if that's a concern, then maybe that's something that can be added into the ordinance, that, the standard, how many people can sleep in a bed, and it can be that, a bed can, a single bed sleeps 1, and the
Anything else
double,
sleeps 2.
anything else sleeps, 2, or whatever you want it to be.
Mhm. I mean, I could just see some people trying to pile a lot of people on a king bed.
Well, we certainly can,
What about rollaways?
can add that.
Where there's a
And
legitimate,
rollaways for kids
Right.
for
especially.
kids.
Well, and then what if you have a room that has a couch with a pull-out
Mhm.
bed, or even a couch?
Mm-hmm.
Does that count? So,
It's a lot of gray areas.
yeah, so I don't know, my thought is you're either to the number of places in a bed, and then you have to define that, or we're back to a square footage requirement.
And actually, if you went to 75 square feet, because no room has more than 2 double beds, typically.
Well, if it has 2
2
double,
queen beds.
if it has
Or
2
2 queens.
queens and a couch, then you've got 5 people.
Then you got 5 people.
Or, well, yes,
Yeah, or rolling.
2 queens and a pull. Which I don't think an extended stay, you're gonna have 2 queens, but I could be wrong.
I've
Yeah,
stayed
many
in some
queens, but you don't
extended
have 2
stays that
queens.
had multiple bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, yeah, per bedroom basis.
yeah.
So what's your, well, I mean, this is the first reading.
Right.
So there's still time
Right.
to,
Additional.
I just
To
think we
discuss
need a
it.
little more definition, rather than just, as many people as the beds allow, or
What is your
whatever.
concern? What do you want to do? What are you
I,
targeting?
I was just thinking, like, if it's a room with a king bed, they may put 3 people in there, or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that was, I just thought it was kind of vague.
Right. Well, here's sort of the real issue behind, you've got the normal thing that you would stay in a hotel and you would have two regular sized beds and then a rollout. That is not a problem. The problem is the extended stay in what the background of this is you have a lot of people staying in one room.
Right.
Yeah.
As a residence for a long period of time. And that's the problems that other cities have had. And if you're regulating that, then to me, the bed configuration is not a good way. And
Yeah.
the square footage requirement is a good way. And it's to accommodate those definitions, then you do what, Dave? You just do the math on the size. And you can go to a 75 and be more generous, 75 square feet. You could go to a 50. But there are places in this county where you'll have a 300 square foot room and 10 people in it. And
Yeah, that's
really
what I'm
you're
trying to avoid.
Right.
That's what you're
Well,
trying to
and yeah,
regulate.
it just seems like that's too much getting into the weeds for what we want to do here
Right.
with this. Because, then we can go, well, you can't sleep on the floor, what do you do? Where do you draw the line exactly?
Well, if you have, each person is 75 square feet.
That works for me, I think.
So why did we withdraw the 100 again?
Because 100 really reduces you to 3 people
Okay.
in a 10 by 30.
All
And
right,
you
so
could
it was
have
too restrictive.
parents with 2
Right.
children.
Oh, yeah, I've been there, done that. Got it. Thank God I never had to do it long term.
so where we took out the minimum of 100 square feet per person, we really want to add that back in and
That's
change it
75.
And
to
change it to
75.
75 instead. 300, okay, 300 square foot per room
So
is
that's 4
left
people
intact.
per 300 square
Yeah.
foot room.
75.
Unless we're at Tony's house.
You guys are good to waive, and we can make that amendment for the second read next.
Okay.
Okay, and then I did have a meeting with the attorney last week, and,
He's here.
yes, Brandon Hanslett is am I saying that right, Hanselick?
Hanselek,
Hanselick.
close.
And we talked, and the biggest issues that he's got for his client that he's representing is the school system review, and just what would the proposed outcome of that be, and how would that affect getting the special use permit, or affect a council vote, and what type of recommendation might they give. So that was one of their issues. And of course, for a property owner, it provides a lot more uncertainty when they're coming in without a set criteria of how things are gonna work and how that process works, like there is through the conditional use permit. So that was one of their issues. And the other was the cleaning every 48 hours. But I get the sense that everybody's pretty decided on that, needs to stay with the way that is. So those were his.
The cleaning.
The cleaning.
Let's start, yeah, okay.
So I don't know if anybody if you wanted to discuss the school system, anything.
So what happens when like this neighborhood we're voting on, that has an influx to the school system? How come they don't go through a process where they gotta go talk to the schools and all that same stuff basically that a hotel would have to do? Or any kind of business that would bring more people living into that area, whatever it kind of
In my
is.
mind, the question becomes, with a neighborhood, you typically have stability, people are gonna stay there for a year at a time, and you can pretty much look at at the statistics for the area of how many children will be generated per house based on the age restrictions of the community. With an extended stay hotel, you end up with potentially, if it's 100 rooms, you could have a 300 child swing with one facility, and that could change virtually on a weekly basis. So that impact on a facility of education could be rather dramatic, whereas it's somewhat mitigated when you're talking about single family or even long-term rental apartments. It's a little more stable than with an extended stay, and
Wow.
that's the concern.
Well, to me, that's not really a concern, because your example was all 300 rooms and all the kids will be living in each room. That's, to me, I really see it being like maybe a handful of students added.
Have you
No.
seen the school bus pick up at the extended stays down off of 78? Because they fill up a school bus for elementary, middle, and high. I mean, it is a dramatic.
So we would rather have those kids go somewhere else, basically. Like, basically, that's what we're
Are
saying here.
hotels a proper way to
If they can't
house?
afford to go to a house or buy a house that's $350,000, where do you want them to go then? What's the government gonna do for them then?
Good question, but is an extended stay hotel the proper way to solve that problem?
If that's what the parents are trying to figure out in their life and what to do, that's their parents' choice. I don't know what the solution is for the parent to do.
Okay.
But I feel like it's an option for them, or like government shouldn't be saying, oh, not here, go somewhere else, go to, I don't know, Stone Mountain or something, I guess. But it's not.
Nobody said go to Stone Mountain.
I know, no one said that, I didn't say anyone said that. I'm saying, that's what I feel, because this is what it does. It pushes those families somewhere else, some other place, deal with whatever the problem is, and we just don't look at it. It's like some regulation on trash, where you hide the trash, make it all pretty with brick and stuff, and let's not look at the trash, we're not producing trash, but we're still shipping it to some other county, building big hole, it's the same thing. We're just kicking it off, hiding the issue, kicking it off somewhere else, to me it's the same thing. So I don't see,
I don't see it that way at all. This is an advisory. We're not saying that the school system is gonna say yes or no. They need to know how many transient students they're gonna have so they can
Well,
plan to accommodate.
The issue that I have with the overall school system input is that we are not structured, Gwinnett County Public is not structured in such a way where they cannot make changes to facilities and staff very quickly, which would they anticipate on a monthly basis anyway. It would be different if we were talking about a small town where you have a small school district and it really has an impact on the one or two facilities, but the impact every school year, we always have projections, and then we always either gain teachers or lose teachers. If we were not talking about a county this large and with the decision-making ability that they have, I think a lot of this is already anticipated within the structure of the county and the Board of Ed. If we were talking about City of Snellville had its own school district and that was what we were managing, I think, sure, we would have a little bit more input from the school board. But that's not the case here at all. We're looking at a much larger issue from the school board, and we're looking at a small City of Snellville concern in terms of acreage. So their input is going to be very limited in terms of what they could say that isn't already been addressed, I think, at the county level with 180,000 students already.
So do I hear you saying
20
it's
school
not
clusters.
really,
It's not relevant.
it's not
Based on the
relevant
structure of
to,
the school system that we're
to
in.
get school system input on
I
something
mean, we
like
could
this?
certainly invite it, but I think what they would have would be limited in the sense of what's already on the table in the structure, you know, of the large district, if that makes sense.
Just to say it, I did reach out to all four principals on this issue more than once.
And what kind of response did you get from them as far as,
What you just heard from me.
And that's the thing.
That he reached out.
This is
that
a
he
much
reached out?
larger.
Okay,
It's a much larger issue at the county level than it, you know, we're not talking about a small decision-making group that can say, okay, the City of Snellville only goes to this school. No, we go to several, and how it's gonna impact those are at a much, it's a larger thing than I think that they could really address on a fair basis.
So basically, you're saying, don't know, don't care?
I think, no, I mean, it's not really the way I'd put it. They care tremendously, but
they can't do anything about
we
it.
have to, the way, you know, it's a larger bureaucracy than they could really have adequate input into, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we were talking about if we were talking from a county commission level kind of status, well, yeah, we want input. You know, what are we gonna do for the entire county, because that's their jurisdiction, whereas ours is not.
The other extended stay hotel and the possibility of all the apartments that were particularly
Mhm.
going to impact one particular cluster. The
Mhm.
district said to us unequivocally that they were prepared for that, they planned for that.
Exactly.
And that it was not an issue for them, it was a total non-issue.
Okay.
They move
Okay.
personnel wherever they need to. When you're under contract, they adjust. If we need trailers, they adjust. It happens every year, and even on a monthly basis sometimes. And it's
Our
just not
teachers-
something,
Teachers are appropriated, from what I understand, you know, student council at Starling, based on those numbers. You get units
right,
of
you get the
teachers,
projections,
get a
you
half
hire,
unit, they-
and then
they
there's
follow that
always,
monthly.
always
Yeah.
movement. You know, we could lose points, gain points based on enrollment. So, I mean, those adjustments, again, from the larger county perspective, this is a little kind of thing to be concerned about based on their projections.
Okay.
So what, everybody, you want to just strike that language? Do you want to do a notice requirement? Would that make any impact at all?
I
Whether to
I
just-
doubt it.
Yeah,
I
it sounds to
doubt
me
it.
like it doesn't,
I mean,
I
it's
thought
not
it
like,
would be,
it's not like we
It's an issue,
rezone
but
or do a
it's-
conditional use permit for a hotel every day.
Well,
Right.
that's
It's
true.
not like this is gonna happen more than once every,
It's,
hopefully, couple of years.
it's small weeds, small potatoes.
So that everybody's on the same page, we're talking about page 5 and section 2213B, and it is just a notice requirement. If they followed Eric's previous notification attempt You probably wouldn't get much out of the principal or the board itself, but it also requires notification of the Parent Teachers Association, which is the group that probably has a little bit more targeted input into anything that's residential in their district when it comes to housing issues. And they do show up and care. It's just giving them notice is really all it does.
Depending on the cluster.
Right.
They
Exactly
show up.
right. Exactly
So they
right.
would be
Same.
notified, somebody might show up, somebody might not.
And when they feel very strongly in favor or in opposition, they will show up.
And you said that was section, page 5?
Page 5, 22-13, item B. So everybody in the room knows what we're talking about. This is what it reads. Approval of a hotel, motel, or extended stay hotel shall require the issuance of a special use permit before SUP, before it may be heard by the planning commission. The planning director shall conduct a separate public hearing on the impact of the hotel, motel, or extended stay on the schools in the district. So he's just talking about a separate meeting and cluster affected by the proposed facility. The planning director shall notify the principal, the Board of Ed, every parent-teacher association affected by the requested rezoning, and invite all to a public hearing on the school impact analysis. Along with the normal report and recommendations of the planning department, the director of planning and zoning shall submit a report on the issues submitted at the public hearing. So it's really an opportunity for people to come in,
And give input.
give input. It would be put into the planning report that would go to the planning commission.
So then we gotta advertise for a public hearing too. So this is a separate hearing, right?
Right,
From-
that's what it says.
It's not, it's over,
Wouldn't it just
it's
be?
overdoing it.
Wouldn't it be, have the same effect of just notify them of the application and let them go through the regular public hearing
Yes.
process?
Yeah.
That's sufficient.
I mean, notification is easy. You know, we can send letters
It's
out
too
and send to the
much.
school board.
Yeah.
Somebody, like Christie said, is gonna read it, and
Mhm.
they're gonna react or not somehow.
Right.
The principals obviously don't have any kind of influence over those decisions.
Mhm.
It's policy, districting, gerrymandering, if you will.
It does make sense to make sure that the notice goes
Yeah.
about the planning commission meeting to those entities, but a
Yeah,
separate
straight to
meeting,
the school board.
a separate
Yeah.
meeting just
Individual principals.
doesn't really sound like it makes sense.
Yeah,
too
it
much.
adds a lot more time and
Mhm.
cost
much.
and aggravation for everybody.
Got it?
Got direction?
Yes.
Okay, good discussion, everybody. Okay, so tonight we'll just be waiving the first reading to our July, what is the next?
July 8th.
July
July
8th.
And the city attorney can make those adjustments and put out another draft. And then any other issues, like I said, there's still time to work it out. Okay, Butch, projects.
Obviously, in the town center, we have ongoing discussions with several groups. We will have, I'll have a memo out in the next day or two about our last phone call and where we are, where we think we are, exchange-wise and timeline-wise with the Postal Service. We have, I think we're going to have a short, I guess, mini retreat update scheduled in Savannah, and that'll be a good time to go over a lot of that. Second item, the town center plan and design work. Those conversations are ongoing with the county, and the county includes GWR. Had a phone call this week with Lisa Willis, who is working on our sewer and water projects on the north side of our property. And we have a draft IGA. I let her know where we stood on everything, and we'll need to get back on that IGA hopefully within the next few weeks. City marketing. I think anybody who came to Public Safety Night saw our little quality of life magnets all over our truck. Nice little PR item there. Brian and Jason and Austin are also working on the quality of life brochure, or just a little flyer to hand out to people we come out and talk to about code enforcement issues. And we're also working on, what you're going to approve tonight is just a black and white line item budget. We're working on a presentation that Dave recommended a while ago, where we make the budget a little more interesting, have some pictures, have some ideas, something we would have done a long time ago if I'd had 3 or 4 people on staff like Savannah or Duluth. But Brian's going to do a good job on that, and it'll be something that we probably will get out in the next month.
Budget
I don't
PowerPoint.
understand your comment, though. The budget is always engaging and exciting.
Well, everybody doesn't read.
Everybody's not a CPA, huh?
3 million numbers in there, so we'll try to express it in photographs.
Colors and pictures.
And he's gonna do it in Common Core as well.
Well, good luck with that one.
I still wake up at night with nightmares of hour-long PowerPoint presentations.
All right, move
I think
on.
we're wrong.
Well, we will always avoid those, Todd.
Thank you.
I think that's in my new contract.
Yeah, no PowerPoints.
When it comes to the UDO, made a lot of progress lately. CPL has finally submitted their comments. So we're looking probably to July for a joint mayor and council planning commission review meeting. May take 2 or 3 hours, but that's something that Jason needs as a staff, and I think we need it as a group. It'd be good to have the planning commission.
Can we make sure the Board of Appeals is there also?
Yes, absolutely. I think
Now,
that's a
that
good.
is something we're gonna need some pictures and
Yeah.
signs.
Oh, there'll be pictures. There'll be a lot of pictures there, but this document will be much more user-friendly.
And we don't have a date on that yet, do we?
No, we don't. No, we don't. Still under review. We'll have to work that out with Caleb and
Okay.
TSW also. The roundabout construction, I don't know if you've been out there. You probably noticed utilities have been located. There's some survey stakes. ER Snell is ready to get started
There's a
on
house missing, I think.
the second one. There's a blank spot where there was a house, but that's moving along. As soon as the weather gets better, it's funny. We went through a drought for a month, and
Yeah.
lately it's been the other way. But and they also are pursuing DDR. I guess they're taking that on for themselves for the turn lane there at Ridgedale. And,
They being the county?
78 and 124. I don't know if any of y'all have headed south on 124 to go west, that little right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so nice to have that big merge lane there.
Oh, yeah.
Long, you can really get up to speed and get in there. It's a lot safer. But in talking to Robert
See
Moon, the
some
Pittman
potential.
supervisor, he is, the original completion date was sometime at the end of November of this year. They aren't going to meet that with all the weather that they've had. But they are meeting some things, and I've talked with Brian about this. It will be in the Spirit magazine. The final traffic configuration, the way that the lanes are going to be there permanently, and the signals will be in place around Labor Day. Labor Day or before. So the actual flow of the traffic with all the signalization will be in place around Labor Day. The paving won't be done. The landscaping won't be done. The landscaping probably won't be done till next spring. They want to put grass out when the weather's the best for it. So at least we will have the lanes open. They won't be paved and they won't have permanent marking on them. But that Labor Day is the target there.
That'll make things go.
So Roy, be
really
ready
smooth.
around Labor Day.
Great. Is there any update on that Springdale Road bridge out?
Springdale Road, it's
Other
a
than
county project.
6
They're looking
months?
at the signage
Yeah.
to try to control the trucks and the regular traffic. How can we better move them around rather than through Green
So
Valley?
they're right on schedule though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Theoretically.
the bridge
Okay.
itself. One other issue with 78 and 124, people forget that it extends all the way to Oak Road. If you look out here on Oak Road, we have a mast arm with some signage on it. Tells people which way, to turn, where the turn lanes are to head east on 78. And there is, relating to that, the plans call for another pole out there. And they were gonna put it right in front of the memorial. I don't know if y'all have seen the marking, the significant, but we have addressed that. It will not be there. There may or may not be one on the other side of Oak, in the grass on the green side. We're trying to avoid that. We feel like they can put new signage up and they can let people know there are 2 left turn lanes and a right turn lane and a through lane. So DOT and all their infinite wisdom is reviewing that right now. So, but there will be no pole in front of the memorial anyway. The next item, SDS negotiations, we actually have an update. Our first meeting has been scheduled for July the 10th. It's at the Environmental Heritage Center, and I'm sure it's going to be the county speaking to us about their plans for the SDS process. So that's I'm glad we have a date. I'm glad they've started to kick that off. 2017 SPLOST program, still very positive revenue. We have gone from a $240,000 a month budget to a $260,000 a month budget, and last month's check was $275. So that's looking very good. Budget and planning, the adoption is set for tonight, and I mean ordinance development gets addressed each and every day almost. So that's just a regular update. That's my report.
Thank you, Butch. And we do have exec session.
We didn't have anything on our list.
We're good.
Unless y'all have something.
I have this written here. Is that for you guys?
It may. See if that rings a bell, Jason. Somewhat it is in feedback.
The red writing on my agenda there.
It came from wrestling.
It did.
Can I ask a question? I had an inquiry this afternoon about the possibility of our council meetings being live streamed. I'm unaware of what has transpired in the last few years. I know that the videos are posted within the week. So, do we have provisions for that? Has it ever come up for discussion?
I think years ago.
I know it came up
might have been.
a million years
We
ago.
could talk about it. Going to the GMA convention is a good time to maybe
Okay.
talk to some vendors down there. In fact, Butch and I were talking, he had suggested that we schedule a time, instead of us all kind of walking through the convention hall individually, that we schedule a time that we walk through together so that we can all talk
That's
to
a good
different
idea.
vendors.
Meet the vendors.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's a
And,
good idea.
see which ones that we might want to follow up on
Bless you.
and,
You don't get as much candy
Then,
that way.
then I had another person drag me by the arm and ask, what would it take to get another street light on their street, Faversham? There is a vacant pole that is just begging for.
Send that to me and
Okay.
we'll check it out.
we can
And-
talk with Walton EMC on that.
And then I got beat up again about doing something about the dying trees in the right-of-way, the center median there on Summit Chase at 78. The homeowners association would like to see the city use some of the tree bank funds to remove those dying trees. There've been limbs coming off them, some of them big, some of them small, and putting in something like large crepe myrtles that are basically weeds that look pretty. That'll
That's what
be
I
able
have in
to.
my yard.
Well, yeah, but they'll be able to survive in a or a 6-foot median, whereas an actual tree just can't get the oxygen and the water necessary. So those are the things I've been getting beat up about. Thought
Okay,
I'd share them with all of y'all.
we can all,
We don't need an executive session.
okay, awesome.
Can we also talk about the Azora Road response, mayor and council?
Oh, yeah.
Transfer facility?
Transfer facility.
I've got 7:25, so let's be
Oh.
quick.
Okay. Do we want to have a
Um,
uniform response,
So what
mayor
I
and
was gonna
council
bring up,
response?
when I responded to you, I didn't realize that was, I thought it was just a resident that was requesting
Oh,
a
no.
stance. And then after I sent the response, then I realized it was the newspaper asking. So, what I was gonna ask everybody today is that I have gotten several emails, I don't know if you all are getting copied on them as well, from people around Grayson area asking us to make a stand on that rezoning. I mean, typically, we would not issue any kind of city letterhead, a letter saying anything about something that far away. We do on occasion when a development or a rezoning's coming up close to the city limits. If we've got some specific issues, we will issue a letter from the city of Snellville saying, please consider these things in your deliberations. I didn't know, I just wanted to see how y'all felt, if you wanted the city to issue any kind of letter stating an opinion on it. You know, it is a county rezoning matter, and it really is not very close to Snellville, and I don't know that there will be a huge impact to Snellville.
The documentation that I've seen that was put out by the county says that the road, Cooper Road from Highway 78 down to Georgia 20 and Azora Road from Georgia 20 down to the county line will be rated, like, I think it's whatever the maximum load rating is now, it's like 54,000 pounds, and they're talking about raising it to almost 80,000 pounds. So that roadway, which does abut the city, would be traveled by vehicles that are 30,000, potentially 30,000 pounds greater than what your average.
I think it does affect Snellville because it's the southern sanitation and they're all over the county. You're gonna have garbage trucks and big freight hauling trucks going through Snellville. Sooner or later, they're gonna wind up on 78.
Well, exactly, and their plan specifically says that they're, from what I've seen, there's no plan for improvements to the roadbed, there's no plan for improvements to signals, there's no plan for any improvements along that roadway. But they're gonna raise the weight limit on vehicles that can travel it.
So let's do this. If y'all would like the city to issue a response, why don't you just go ahead and email to me points that you'd like to have put in there, and then we can issue,
Okay.
we can send a
Cool.
letter.
Okay.
Okay? All right,
Good deal.
with that, we'll adjourn the work session and head into a meeting. I've got 7:28, so if y'all